Let's pick up on that candidacy issue here. Give us the report on where the status that is. How fast could it get done, if in fact it gets done at all?
Well, David, thanks for having me. It's great to see you. What you see today in Brussels may appear extraordinary, this visit, but in fact, it will become quite normal in the next few years, and that's a very, very unique characteristic of this relationship. Ukraine wants to be a country that belongs to the European Union, and the European Union has made a decision that Ukraine will be a member of the European Union and is already a member of the European family. They're fighting and they're dying for those ideals that the European Union was built on. So the prospect is there, the candidacy is there, and the work is ahead of us. But as the European Commission President said and the European Council President said, the efforts Ukraine is doing during the war are remarkable. Whether it is about being able to keep their economy alive, a very resilient economy with Russia trying to bomb it to rubble in addition to the buildings, whether it is the young people in Ukraine, the young generation, the education they have, the tremendous economic opportunities, whether it is a fight against corruption that they're engaged in very effectively for a while now, all these are signs that Ukraine is on a very, very hopeful path for European integration. This is a process that is merit-based. It's not, the European Union is not a social club, of course, and the Ukrainians know that very well. And we are tremendously impressed by the work that they have done already, and we look forward to supporting them throughout this process.
Let me go to the ultimate question and perhaps assume that they did become a regular member of the European Union. How would that change what's going on with Russia right now? Would it strengthen their position? And if so, how?
Well, being a member of the European Union would obviously give them a tremendous advantage when it comes to, being integrated into the single market. The economy will boom substantially. They will be able to receive investments much more easily from everywhere in the world, including the United States and other places. And of course, the security that the European Union gives to its members, the sense of belonging not just to an economic powerhouse, but also to a powerhouse of values that sticks by those values. They're not nice to have things for us, is something that the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian youth are looking forward to. So it's going to be a game changer.
So, Mr. Ambassador, you mentioned the issue of corruption before this invasion by Russia of Ukraine. I'll say Ukraine did not have necessarily the best reputation on dealing with how they manage their economy. How much progress have they made? How much more do they need to make?
Well, look, they already have a law in place, and no one else has such a law in place in the neighborhood for a few years now to curtail the power of oligarchs in Ukraine. And you can see now, in the middle of the war, when one might say, well, let's not rock the boat, they are, out there, making sure that all the aid that we give them gets distributed correctly, arresting people who may be, corrupting that support or using other kind of corruption. Their prosecutor, as they're looking at day and night with our support at the war crimes that Russia is committing and collecting the evidence, they are at the same time making sure that corruption is being addressed. So, of course, it's a long road. It's not an easy road, but I am very hopeful given the commitment that they're showing.
Mr. Ambassador, is the United States asking for further and additional sanctions against Russia from the EU?
Well, the United States doesn't have to ask for that. We are imposing our sanctions in lockstep with the United States in most cases, and we are, in fact, quite ahead. You cannot defy gravity. We are next to Russia. The sanctions we're imposing have, in every single package, a much bigger effect on the Russian economy, but also on the EU economy, a negative effect, just because our level of trade and investment has been so much higher. But that didn't stop us at all from imposing just now an additional ban on refined petroleum products, which of course is going to have an influence, and a serious one, at the gas pump in Europe, in European member states. But we understand that the price of freedom is high. And in Europe you need, keep in mind, 27 leaders to sign unanimously any sanctions package for it to go through. It's not like in the US, a president just has to sign something. I can guarantee you that Putin was betting that at least one or two of our member states would not agree to take the side of sanctions, And that was one more miscalculation that he's made. His economy now is suffering because of European and American sanctions massively. His military machine cannot produce the weapons that he would need, and he's reaching out to the Iranians and to the North Koreans and to others to get them. He is in real trouble.
Yeah. Mr. Ambassador, we can't talk to you without asking about Turkey and the tragedy that's unfolding right now in southeast Turkey. Exactly what is the EU doing to try to help Turkey? I know this is terribly important to you.
Oh, it's supremely important, and we came out directly. I did so here in this country, of course, as the EU ambassador, but our leaders back in Brussels as well. Not just expressing condolences, but mobilizing the mechanism that we have in Europe, the civil protection mechanism, which involves support that is given to us by cooperating countries as well. Around 35 countries are in that mechanism. So we are collecting right now and sending to Turkey everything that we can to support its people. It's a terrible, terrible tragedy, a terrible tragedy. I can't really imagine, what they're going through, and my condolences go directly to the people of Turkey, everyone who's lost loved ones, but everyone in Turkey as well.
Yeah, and I know many of us, all of us in the United States, really share those sentiments. One last subject, a bit different subject, and that's EV tax credits, which has been an issue under the Inflation Reduction Act, an issue between the European Union on one hand and the United States on the other. Can you give us any sense of any discussions ongoing, and is there any room for maneuver that you're determining on the U.S. side? There is a statute. It's kind of hard to just disregard that, but is there any movement toward a resolution of that?
Yes, there is. We have set up a task force to address exactly that issue, and already in late December 2022, the U.S. administration announced an interpretation of the law that makes those discriminatory provisions, reduces their negative effect on Europe and the rest of the world. But we are still discussing issues such as batteries and critical minerals and the provisions that require that only if they are done in the U.S. can they be used in a car that takes the credit, because fundamentally this is what it boils down to. We cannot produce everything that we want. We each want to support our industries, it goes down saying, but we can't, even if we want to produce everything that we want in-house. So we have to import, and the question is, who do we import from? We Europeans, you Americans. Do we import from our biggest allies in the world, which is each other? Or do we retain our dependencies on countries that we do not want to be dependent on? So if you take that simple premise, it is the supply chains and the value chains that have to be bolstered as we both try to move to greener technologies, including EVs. And to the extent that we can ensure that the Inflation Reduction Act does not have negative consequences there, to the extent that we can ensure that there's transparency so that, we do not compete on subsidies, we compete on quality. That will make a difference. David, just one thing there, what I think is important. We give incentives in Europe as well for the e-vehicles, but we do not discriminate between European and other car makers. Result, in Germany today, the biggest seller of EVs is Tesla. It's not BMW, it's not Volkswagen. And that's great for the European economy. It's not hurting us. It is allowing us to be able to get as many and as cheap as possible EVs on the roads to make sure we deal with the CO2 emissions, but it's also getting our companies to compete better, to be faster, to try to beat each other, if you like, in a fair competition. That's what American and European open economies are about, and that's what we should be aiming for.